the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Well, thank you everybody for coming this evening, and thank you Fegley for hosting us this evening. A couple things I do have to say: that this meeting is live streamed and also will be archived for future reference on YouTube. This meeting is a meeting of the school board in public for the purpose of conducting school board corporation's business and is not to be considered a public community meeting. There will be time for public participation as indicated on the agenda. The meeting site is fully accessible. Any person requiring further accommodation should contact the superintendent of the school corporation's central office. Our mission is to educate, empower, and inspire excellence. If anybody would like to speak under other, there is a public comment form by Mr. Elwood. Please fill that out and return it into the same place. Next, we're going to move on to student and staff presentations. We have the good news report with our interns. It's a video.
I'm Q. I'm in the Commons today, and I'm here to give you the good news report. So let's get started. The Fegley Middle School cheerleaders are hosting a food drive for the Portage Food Pantry. Anyone who brings canned goods to on November 20th or 21st basketball games will receive a free spirit item from the cheerleaders. Willow Creek Middle School is hosting their annual coat drive. New or gently used coats can be brought to the main entrance at Willow Creek through November 27th. The PHF Athletic Department held their Fall Awards night last week. Congratulations to our Fall MVPs. Ethan Abels from boys soccer, Emily Willis from girls soccer, Tommy Elwood from boys cross country, Caitlin Makoviak from girls cross country, Xavier Alvarez from football, Lexi Klein from volleyball, Justin Colbert from boys tennis, and Jordan Jacobs from girls golf. Congratulations. The PHS Visual Communications class brings fairy tales of life. Students in the class are using Wacom's tables and Adobe Photoshop to create illustrations of characters in our popular children's stories and rhymes. Our Kyle Elementary second grade students are using pumpkins to learn about math. They removed the seeds from their pumpkins, counted them, and put them in groups of tens and hundreds. Our chemistry students at PHS created 3D models of isotope elements. They counted the number of protons, neutrons, and electrons, represented the particles using colored marbles and properly named isotopes. Fegley Middle School welcomed the She Can Tech group from Portage High School. Last week, the girls explored electrical engineering, learned how to code, and practice with bracelets. They also discussed video game designs and played a game that programmed by She Can Tech member. The staff at Fegley Middle School held their MIC Teacher Night fundraiser at McDonald's on Central Avenue. They enjoyed working alongside former students and serving dinner to communities. Ms. Caballero would like to thank everyone who came and supported Fegley, all the students who volunteered their time and talents, and the staff at McDonald's for making them feel welcome. Our PHS Art Department created their annual Ofrenda to celebrate Dia de los Muertos. This year, the theme is the 100th anniversary of women's right to vote. The students have been working to create various pieces of artwork, including the traditional ofrenda. Congratulations to one of our Central Elementary students, Christopher, on submitting a poster to the Red Ribbon Contest. He attended the reception with Miss Verduzosko, his art teacher, on November 2nd. His poster shares the message, "Don't huff, don't puff, stay away from that stuff." Our 6th grade honors English class at Fegley competed in the digital escape room during a fun Friday problem-solving activity. Fegley teachers used their e-learning day on November 5th to learn about how to administer the escape rooms and incorporate them into their lessons across all disciplines. The professional development paid off as the students were able to engage and actively try to solve the complex puzzles. Schools throughout Portage Township hosted special Veterans Day activities last week to honor those who have served our countries. Many of the schools performed patriotic songs, and students invited special veterans in their lives to join them at school. Visit the PTS Facebook page and watch and listen to the Armed Force Melody performed by the Willow Creek Middle School Band. Willow Creek asks that their veterans in attendance stand when they hear their branch song. Our support staff throughout the district participated in professional development during our recent e-learning day. Secretaries, health aide, classroom assistants, and technology specialists gain valuable knowledge and strategies to help them best support our students. They attend sessions on technology, verbal de-escalation teams, building, and school safety. Willow Creek Middle School also did some team building activities during their e-learning day. Mr. Wilkins and Mr. Lynch led a challenge ed activity, including trust falls, dot to dot, and a marble run. The staff had a great time and learned a lot about the importance of working together. Upcoming events. The PHS SPNs will present the fall play, Check Please, this Friday, Saturday at 7 p.m. in the West Auditorium. Tickets are $5 in advance and $6 at the door. Tomorrow is Red for Ed Action Day at the Indiana State House. As a reminder, families, there will be no school. A makeup day has been scheduled for January 10th. The Fall into Fun with the Portage SRO event is this Thursday from 6 to 8 p.m. at the PHS Fieldhouse. Join us for a night of carnival games demonstrated by the Porter County Sheriff's Department and a chili cook-off fundraiser benefiting the Portage Robotics teams. Hi, I'm Q. I'm in the Commons today, and I'm here to give you the good news report.
Well, thank you. As you can see, there's a lot of good news going on in PTS. If it was hard to hear for some of you, that will be available on YouTube to listen to the clarity of it. Academic distinction presentation, Dr. Alanez and Mrs. Deaver Lowry.
Yes, at this time we have representation from Portage High School with Principal Stills. Also in attendance is Assistant Principal Mrs. Robbie Garcia, and then working alongside them is Mrs. Devers Lowy as she assisted in the communications component of the rollout plan.
Good evening.
For obvious reasons. Can I just pick that up? All right, I'll stay over here. I certainly can't see that far. Let's take this with me. Okay, this endeavor actually started last year. Dr. Alanez had brought it up, and some of the former staff had worked on this with our stakeholders in terms of moving forward with an academic distinction like the honors, Latin honor system, essentially to allow for us to recognize more of our kids. You guys are well aware of the ACES program that typically honors 30 of our kids. I know you guys are at the banquet. This would allow us to essentially average about 50 of our kids broken down into the 3 tiers so they can get more recognition. The second part is talking about ranking creates an environment in which one student's success is another student's failure. I've noticed this year especially, a lot of our kids are very competitive, and the parents even more so. I've had them in. It's been pretty contentious at times about this kid's going to drop this and drop this, just jockeying around to try and get that top position, and it's actually become counterproductive. And promoting college and career readiness, big thing throughout the state right now. Students can choose some of the pathways now, knowing that they could still be in the upper tier, not necessarily 1 or 2, but pick something they'd like to do as opposed to taking AP classes and dual credit to try and keep that GPA boosted up instead of taking something they'd really like to do. With our PTS strategic plan, this actually covers 2 of our goals, obviously creating a culture of high achievement, and goal 3 is creating a culture of collaboration, acceptance, in a safe and secure learning environment, which consequently goes along with our high reliability schools strategic planning framework that you instituted in the HRS level 1 is exactly that. And then there's a little clip here from Education Week talking about with the exception of the top ranked student in the class, it's actually counterproductive and that the others aren't motivated. I've noticed that whether it's Honor Society or the OYM, and the girls' programs, that we've got a lot of talent in our school. Not necessarily just a high GPA. The kids, whether they're playing instruments or acting or even going through that program and giving speeches, the kids are amazing, and it's probably anywhere up to 100 of our kids. So it's time that we, recognize twice as many necessarily. We'll still have the ACES program, maybe named something different. They can still get recognized there, but ultimately we want to recognize more of our kids. I can answer questions at the end, but they told me this is where I got to let the girls take it over. They did a lot of work in creating this program for you guys.
Okay, so I just want to explain it kind of in a nutshell of what exactly this looks like. So the currently it's called ACES is the way we have it. And in all honesty, for our current 9th through 12th graders, there's not going to be any kind of adjustments or anything for them. We will slowly transition them to this new recognition scenario. So what we did find in a lot of our research, there are multiple schools throughout the state that do have this type of a Latin honor system. We will be calling ours an academic distinction system. So that'll be the difference kind of with the terminology. But again, definitely very valued schools out there too that have transitioned to this type of a program. So there's basically 3 different levels. They're based on your grade point average. When I looked at our current grade point averages for our current class, when I ran that report, a 4.0 and above, as Mr. Still said, we had 50 students that were in that average, whereas we would only be recognizing the top 30. I mean, a 4.0 I think is still pretty commendable and everything, so it does give us the opportunity. So the summa cum laude, when this takes effect, when it's fully rolled out, would be a 4.4 or higher. And then instead of just one person giving a speech, we would have an audition or an application process. We would have a panel of judges to help determine who should be giving that speech. We would still have a medal that, similar to the ACES one. We would also have special cords, so each level would have a different color cord. The summa cum laude would graduate first. The magna cum laude would come second. And when I looked at the GPA, we were trying to kind of balance it out and distinguish it. So there's definitely a smaller percentage at the summa level. And then magnum is in the middle, and then there's a smaller percentage at the bottom level. So a 4.2 to a 4.39, again, they'll have the medal, the cords, and they'll graduate after the summa. And then the third level, the cum laude, would be a 4.0 to a 4.19. Again, the medals, the cords, and then they would graduate next. So the way this is going to roll out, again, the current high schoolers are not going to see a whole lot of change. We are going to revise the robes starting with this current senior class. Everybody will wear red. So that'll be one part of it. So here, so they'll wear the red robes. We will still have ACES for all 4 levels. Okay, so for even the freshmen, they will still have ACES. We're not going to take that away. The juniors in this, the current junior class, the only change that they're going to see is they're going to be able to see their unweighted grade point average on their transcripts. However, in all honesty, we just corrected our transcripts to be compliant with the state. And currently, every transcript now has both unweighted and weighted per recommendation of the state. So that's actually in effect right now. So again, the current juniors, no changes in their ranking, no changes in their grade point average calculations, nothing like that. The sophomores, again, no changes. Everything really just keeps going on. We will start incorporating the robes, or not the robes, but the cords as well, so getting them adjusted to that, probably using a little bit more terminology of the summa, the magnum, and the cum. And then freshman year, again, no major changes. We will start talking more with students about the different types of distinction when they get to senior year. Again, the banquet still goes on, all of that stuff is the same. So where it really changes is full implementation, which is the current 8th grade class. So one of the things we did find, we did run a side-by-side comparison of weighted and unweighted grade point averages. to see, what exactly discrepancies. We did talk to other schools in the state, unweighted versus weighted. From my background with colleges and stuff, I do know that for the most part, especially high-end colleges, they take weight away and then they only calculate your grade point average based on your 5 academics, your 5 core subjects. So in trying to help align kids so that they have a very good picture of what their grade point average is, currently any freshman class and on does receive an extra weighted point. So we would not start the weight until junior year. So freshman English 9 honors would be weighted on a 4.0 scale, just a normal, which is pretty standard across the state. But if they take English 11 advanced, or if they take English language AP as a junior, that would definitely have weight to it. So it's really just aligning those things. It creates a more accurate GPA for the students. I did talk to student council and got some feedback from them. Some of them were happy about it, some of them not so happy. Definitely the apples were a question of will the apples continue with the ACES banquet, so they definitely liked the glass apples. But it really, some students responded, they wish that this was implemented now, that they felt that they were competing and feeling like a failure, even though they have high GPAs, because, like Mr. Still said, it has become extremely competitive with students. So those were some of the advantages that students felt. It'll relieve some of the academic pressure. I know Penn did a study, and they felt, when they surveyed their parents as well, they felt that the ranking and the competitiveness was taking away from the educational experience. Some disadvantages, again, some of the students said, if you take away our competition, we won't excel. And at some point, students have to find that intrinsic value, too, of taking some of those honors level classes. As far as transparency and students wanting to have their rank information, that would always be available. So even if it's not visible to them, if they needed it for a scholarship or they needed it for some purpose, we would still have access through PowerSchool to retrieve that information and give it to them. A lot of schools, though, like I said, colleges aren't looking at rank because it's not apples to apples when you're comparing different schools. So,
So one of the parts that was important to us throughout this process was making sure that we had input from our stakeholders. As Mrs. Garcia said, she met with members of our student council that gave us a good representative sample of the students who would be affected by this change if they were in that 8th grade class, and so we wanted to make sure that we had their thoughts and opinions. We also met last year with a group of parents who were from then the 8th grade class. They are now parents of current freshmen, and they were able to provide us with some feedback, some concerns. Their biggest concern was, please don't implement this now with the current junior and senior class, and I agree with that because I think we would have some very upset students and parents who had been working toward that class rank-based system over a period of time. So that was that was kind of the motivation for holding off to do this until our current 8th grade class. We did get some good questions from them that we were able to do some good research and be able to provide some answers to. The biggest question has been, will there be ACEs? As we stated before, yes. Starting with the 8th grade class, students will qualify for ACEs during their senior year by earning that academic distinction. So it may be called something different. It may look a little bit different. We may be recognizing more students some years, but we still will be continuing with that tradition. Does this affect the number of students who qualify for ACEs? Possibly, since you're not setting that hard line of 30 students and then that's your cutoff. And this is one of the things that I really love about this Latin honors system is that you're not competing against each other, you're competing against yourself. So if you personally do well, you will be honored for that hard work that you do. So that will affect the number of students. It could be more some years, it could be less. In talking with some of my former students, they had siblings who had a different GPA than them and a far different class rank. So I think that this honors that hard work that they do. We had some questions about the Academic Hall of Fame, which is located in our Commons area at the high school, and if this would impact that Academic Hall of Fame. The answer to that question is no, because those are two separate systems. Different qualifications for each. It is not dependent upon class rank, so that would not be affected. The big question that we got from parents and students alike, what if a college or a scholarship requires a class rank? As Mrs. Garcia said, we still will be tracking that information because in some special circumstances, you cannot get around that, having that information on an application, and we didn't want students to be possibly hurt for that. So we will still keep that, and we will be researching best practices on being able to deliver that information as well. So students can contact their guidance counselor for assistance with that. Along those same lines, military applications do require class rank if you're going into a program such as one of our students did where he's going to be with the Navy serving in their nuclear program. That would require class rank information. So yes, that would be available to that. Will opting out of providing a class rank on an application hurt my child's chances? We did a lot of research on this, and the answer is no, because once again, if they need that information, we can absolutely provide it. The research that I did was that many schools are allowing students to opt out of providing a rank. They will actually have it on the college application where it says my school does not participate in class ranking systems. And it is kind of nice because it's allowing colleges to look at things like academic achievements, course rigor, extracurricular activities, SAT, ACT scores, etc. Why switch to students wearing all red robes at commencement? As a Portage graduate, I can say that I've been there, wearing the red robe and having to find an outfit that can be put under the white robe is very difficult without having it show through. It also creates uniformity throughout the entire graduating class. I liked it also from an aesthetic viewpoint in that when you put cords with the robes, you can ensure that you're picking colors that will stand out against that color. So who will give the valedictorian and salutatorian speeches at commencement? We did some research on how other schools handle this issue who don't do the class rank system, and they actually allow students to audition. Munster does this, and it's an excellent system. Some of the students from there, I talked to a couple of former Munster students, and they said it's nice because it takes that pressure off of the top two to have to give that speech. Some students really love it. Others, if you would have put me in front of that amount of people as a high school senior, don't think I could have handled it. So instead, you allow students to, who are in that academic distinction system to audition for a speech. So if you have someone who has a really good, inspiring, poignant story to tell, something that the crowd will enjoy, they really like public speaking, they can audition for that spot. So in doing this, the marketing aspect of this is going to be very, very important because it is a huge change. And it's not even so much marketing it, it's just letting people know what's going on, making sure that they feel comfortable with it and that we're providing answers to their questions. So internal and external communication here is going to be important. So starting with external communications to our stakeholders, there will be a digital media kit available upon approval of this process so that we have a press release in there. We have graphics of each of the levels and how they are broken down, benefits of the system. Being able to send information out to families on Peach Jar, being able to send out those visual outlines and academic distinction tiers graphics is going to be key. Also presenting the information at opportunities like the Freshman Families Information Night, 8th grade Parent Night, just reiterating all that information. As you guys know, I'm a very big fan of putting the same information in multiple places to make sure that people get it. So that's what we'll do with that. Internal communications with our guidance counselors and our high school teachers, middle school teachers, this is going to be very important. Mrs. Garcia will meet with those counselors to make sure that they feel comfortable with this system, that they understand it. We want to make sure that our high school teachers have this information as well, because they are going to be the ones to kind of reinforce and help push our students into achieving one of those levels of academic distinction. After the initial rollout of this, so we're looking a few years down the line, but once we've implemented this, what I would like to do is create a page on the PTS website that is dedicated just to the academic distinction program, so parents can easily access information there. We will integrate it as a regular part of 8th grade parent night, so that as our incoming freshmen are getting ready for high school, they feel comfortable knowing that and they understand what that expectation is for them leading into it. And then every year, as we have those academic distinction levels, making sure that our media outlets have a copy of those students who have achieved that, so that they can have that additional recognition. And that is our plan. And if anyone has any questions, we are more than happy to address those.
I have a couple questions. Dr. Alanez, in the rollout plan, I didn't see any policy change. This is going to take a policy change from the board. So do we have policies ready to go?
As a matter of fact, we have, there were 3 or 4 policies throughout the state that we were able to get our hands on, that we have currently taken under advisement, and we'll be bringing them to the policy committee, yes.
Okay, so will they be approved by the end of the year or by next year?
I would like them to be approved before the end of this year.
Okay.
That shows the rollout of how that will look.
All right, so if we could add policies, because this is something that's going to take, it's going to be a policy driven. And then the other thing, being on the board, just as a background, this concept of class rank and removing class rank from high school has been an ongoing discussion at the national level back when Dr. Fratasha was here. That's when it first initiated, and it was brought up after the school board went to the National School Board Association conference on how it harms our children. And it harms more than who it actually helps. So it was something that was brought up then. It was something that was brought up at the previous superintendent that he was looking into. And I know that the board continued that discussion on with Dr. Alanez. And you're correct, there is leading practices on this. There is research based on this. I would like to have seen some articles attached to this, because I think it's important for families, whoever's going to be looking at this, that they can say, okay, here's the research. There's even newspaper articles that are very easy to read on how this actually harms students. And with that being said, the weighted versus the unweighted, more accountability and more accurate GPA as opposed to what our GPA actually was. And the college acceptance is a #1 reason for changing and getting rid of class rank. So with that being said, I'll ask a question. With the size of Portage Township schools, our class rank, did that hinder or help students getting into colleges, the size of our school, and why? Can somebody answer that?
I don't think rank so much it has like a positive impact. I think it's just kind of like an outlier there. In my experience in dealing with students getting into Ivy League schools, local colleges, and different things like that, the biggest indicators are going to be your test scores, your grade point average, and the rigor of your curriculum. So we definitely want students to take AP courses if they're, we still need to push that, because every college application says, how many AP courses does your school offer and how many did you take? And if your school offered 26 AP courses and you only took 1, then a college they only have the paper in front of them. So they're gonna say, can you tell us? But I don't think within Portage Township schools, and again, too, still trying to look at data. What I did was I did go through Parchment, which is where all of our transcripts go through. I had looked to see where our last semester transcripts were sent, trying to determine where our kids were going. So we're still in the process of still collecting some of that data that I can share with you as soon as we have that together.
Do you have any? say about that, as far as the size of the school district and class rank, if it is a negative
Right, I
or a
definitely think,
positive?
I would absolutely say, as Ms. Garcia was alluding to, the idea that class rank does not help our children.
No, it does not.
It does not help our children. And that's why I think, as you stated, there's the importance of, in the event that it is a specific application, such as the gentleman who is entering the armed forces on a specific a unique situation, and they need the class rank, we can provide it. But other than that, we're not going to be focusing on that class rank at all.
So GPA, ACT, and SAT are the primary things that colleges look at.
Coursework as well.
And I understand all that.
Right.
But typically, if for admittance, unless you're actually going to get a scholarship or something like that. So with that being said, if we had, just say Boone Grove, who typically graduates 100 students, and we graduate approximately 600, and if I'm number 44 in Boone Grove, and I'm number 44 in Portage, do you see where I'm going with this?
Yes.
And what colleges look at? It does have a big difference in the size of your school district.
sure does.
It has a huge difference on whether or not you get admitted or not. So there is research. It's easy to read research. It's easy to see research of how this hinders our students, and not only our students, but many students. We are lagging in this, and I'm glad to see that this came about. It'd be interesting to see what other school districts are doing in Region 1. And I know Crown Point and Munster, obviously, were the leaders of this.
Yes.
So if we could get some research in there, and also we've thrown out the acronym a couple of times, ACEs. Dr. Alanes, if you could just please explain what ACEs is and explain it so that those who want to, maybe are watching us and don't know what ACEs actually is.
Sure.
Could explain that.
The
Thank you.
ACES banquet is for the students who achieve the top 30 class ranks in their academic year, and that is specific to students. The acronym at the current moment is failing me to recall. Could you remind me?
Academic champions excelling in school.
Okay, and so what that banquet then, as the board is aware, knows that the students, those top students who achieve the rank of 30 and above, are then invited to the banquet with their educator or special educator that they feel has influenced them in their education in Portage Township schools. Obviously, again, that is a very honored place for our students to be invited, but as Mr. Stills mentioned, we want to invite more students. We want to have more students recognized and be able to share in those opportunities. So we'd be looking upwards of about 150, because approximately could be 50 from each of those distinctions.
Okay, is there any other questions?
I think this is great. I think
Yes.
I think this is very well thought out, well put together. It's a great presentation. I like the gradual working it in plan, and so you basically, you've got 4 years of communication out there and working with those incoming eighth grade students that'll become freshmen. So I think this is I think this is a good move. I know we've seen it at NSBA and others. Leading school districts are doing this, and I think it's great that we're not waiting for the rest of Porter County to do it, that we're taking the lead. So great work. Thank you.
I also appreciate the fact that you got input from the different stakeholders and the parents and the students and of course the teachers, and so appreciate that. It's important.
And just a real quick Google search, just FYI, for the collegeboard.org. Class rank was once a major component in admissions decisions, but according to a recent report by the National Association of College Admissions Counseling, the NACAC, more than half of high schools no longer report student rankings.
Yep.
So we're obviously in the majority with this. We're not in the minority.
Yep. Thank you guys for your hard work, and we will get those additional factors back to the board, and I think that's a really good idea to make sure that we have attached articles and the research that's objective for parents to be able to see for themselves when we roll this out, so that they can go to the research and the literature and see exactly where, as you said, Trustee O'Prisco, we're not the first in this.
No.
We will be in the majority now to get away from that dated system.
It's been a national trend for years. If you go back and look, you can see it's just.
So is this something we need to vote on?
I
Or do
think
we
we
wait
vote
for
for
the
the
policy?
policies. That's our vote when we
We
approve the
vote
policies.
for the policy, okay.
Correct?
I agree, yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great
Good
job.
job, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, we'll move on to Fagley Middle School presentation. Dr. Alanez.
We have for you today Principal Caballero. She also has had her wonderful admin team alongside her, Assistant Principal Mrs. Jennifer Combs, and Dean of Students Mr. Joe Bashan.
Hi, good evening. Thank you for being here at Fagley, our home. Tonight we are going to be talking to you about something that we brought new to Fagley this year, our Collaboration Center. It's very much inspired by my previous employment at the high school and the renovation at West. And I seen the good works that were happening at the renovated West and allowing the teachers to have a space to collaborate. So when we had a classroom come available on the second floor, I decided to turn it into exactly that, a collaboration center for teachers. So we are here talking to you tonight about our center. It is addressing our strategic plan goals of 1 and 3, creating a culture of high achievement, as well as creating a culture of collaboration and acceptance in a safe and secure learning environment. And I am going to turn that over. Mrs. Combs is going to talk first in regards to data.
Okay, I'm just going to do this because I'm a little bit taller. Okay, this year I have fully taken over as the test coordinator for Fagley. So I am getting into the data. We are looking at trends. We are looking at students, where they're falling, where we're having successes, what we need to work on. And so part of that is me being very visual. We decided we need to come up with a data wall. And so we have taken our students' NWEA data, which we take 3 times a year, and we are focused on that data right now because that is tangible. That's something that every kid has. And even kids that come in mid-year, I can test them with a shorter version of the test to at least get an idea of where they're going to fall. So if you want to flip to the next slide, I will show you. This is what it looks like right now if you were to go up there. So it is divided and it's cut off. It's a bigger board than what fits in the picture. But we have a 6th grade, 7th grade, and 8th grade section. So each teachers in that group know where they're focusing, where their kids' names are going to be. Each teacher had a magnet for their students in their warrior time, which is like our advisor, and they would place their student's name where they tested in the appropriate red, yellow, or green, which are broke down by the RIT band. So 0 to 30%, we're going to fall in red, which means we need lots of help. We're way far behind, about 2 years behind or more. Our yellow kids are going to be 31% to 60% when we take their score versus the national average, looking at where other kids score. So those kids with a little bit of extra help, they're going to have a good chance of passing that iLearn test. And then our kids in our green are the kids that are where they're supposed to be or above. We have lots of kids that as we move through the testing year, we will see the kids excel above where they're supposed to be at that time of the year. Which is awesome, which is what we want to see. So we have English, language, and math bars, which is what the 3 bars, and then red, yellow, and green for each grade level. Okay? And so the nice thing to do here is we can go up there as teams, as teachers, and each time the kids test, we move their magnet. And the idea is that we're moving their magnet to the right as the year goes on. If we're not moving that kid's magnet, or they're staying in the same area, we know we need to get some extra help for those kids. Some more small group instruction. We are able to, through NWEA, go down and break down where their skills are, where they're lacking, and then do small group or some DI instruction with those students just to make sure that we are doing everything we can to get them caught up. A lot of our students that fall in the red are going to be our special education students that just due to their disabilities are going to fall behind on the test scores, but we are looking for growth, individual growth with those students still. And then the nice thing is the teachers come up, they're going to analyze the data, they're going to look at where they were in August, because we always have the summer slope. And so when we test again in January, it's exciting to see those gains. It's exciting to see how the kids have grown over the course of the few months that they've been in school. The teachers also will conference with the kids They do individualized student learning plans where the kids have student goal setting worksheets. They look at their score, they look at what they need to do to achieve the goal they want to be at, and then they make a plan for it. This is what I need to do. Okay, maybe it's doing some extra remediation on an online website at home. We have Study Island available, which the kids can get on. It'll give them the different standards that they're struggling in, and the kids can just do practices. And a lot of those implement games inside of them, so the kids really do enjoy it. Prodigy is a math one that the kids love because it is kind of like a math game, but they're still doing math, and the teachers put in the math problems, and the kids don't really know that. So we trick them into having fun and learning that way. And again, it gives the teachers a visual. The teachers can see, okay, these are my kids in the red. And it's kind of cool to see, oh, this student really struggles in math, but they're rocking it in English. Okay, and so we can find their strengths, we can celebrate their strengths, but then also work with them in the math area to get them the extra help. Okay, so it's just a nice way for us to meet up there, to see it, and to celebrate when those kids are moving, and the kids that aren't moving, let's look at, maybe they showed a lot of growth, and they're just not moving enough to get into the new continuum. But we're gonna celebrate that success so they can feel good about themselves. Okay, so this is kind of my baby because I'm in charge of the testing, but you know, I had a lot of help in putting this together, which I greatly appreciate, and I think the teachers are really buying into it, being able to see it, being able to move the kids, being able to have an easy way of looking, okay, I don't have to look at all sixth graders, I can look at SWAL, and these are my kids I need to focus on. Okay, or these kids are in this range. Okay, these are the kids we need to work on. We're shooting for all kids to score in the 61st to 100th percentile because they are more likely to pass iLearn at that time. So that's our yellow and our greens. Okay, and it kind of breaks them down into DI groups for us when you place them on the continuum, and it's easier to manage. So it's been really helpful this year, and we're excited after January to move them again and celebrate those new successes. Okay? I'm going to turn it over to Mr. Bashan, who's going to talk about our social-emotional wall.
Good evening. Good evening. Our data wall is on our west wall. On our east wall, directly on the other side, is the social-emotional wall. And what that is based off the idea that students do better when they have a connection with at least one adult that they can go to in the building. So what we've done is we put a list of all of our kids, almost 700 kids, are listed on. Could you go to the next screen, please? There are 700 kids up there, and the idea is that we challenge our teachers to go and look at these boards and look at the kids' names up there. And once you have a relationship, a true relationship with those kids, you could take their name off. And I'm not just saying you just know their name, but you know something about them. They come up to you, they talk to you, they tell you about how their weekend was. You have a relationship with those kids. You could take the name off of the board and then take it down. The idea is to get all of those off by the end of the year, have all of our kids have at least one adult they can go talk to at the end of the year. Can you go to the next slide, please? This is what our board looked like when we started putting together our PowerPoint. And when we took the picture, went up to look at it, that's actually incorrect. There are actually 2 students left up there in 8th grade. The kids at the 6th grade, you'd expect to have a few more because they're newer to our building. They haven't had a chance to meet and get to build a relationship with our teachers and our staff in the building. It's not just teachers, it's any adult in the building. Somebody might, gravitate to one of the people in the lunch line or one of our custodians or a coach. It doesn't have to be a teacher. It's any adult that has a connection with our kids. After looking at this, we actually, all of our 6th graders now have some adult who's claimed that I know this person. All our 7th graders do, and there are only 2 8th graders that still lack that connection yet. And I'm sure there are 50-something adults in here trying to make a connection with those kids. Could you go back to the other screen, please? Make sure I didn't miss anything. During each PD or every time, all of our meetings up there on Tuesdays and Thursdays, our staff meet up there, and during those meetings, those boards are up there, and we look at them, the teachers look at them to see where are our kids, who do I have a connection with. So that's where we're at right now. We're down to 2 kids. Okay, thank you.
And just to touch on that a little bit as well, it's important that we believe that we have the connection, but it's even more important that those students believe. So in December, we are actually going to be giving the students a survey with a drop-down menu with all of our names. And just anybody that you have a connection with, that you feel like if you're in trouble, you can go to this person, click on their names, and you can click as many as you want, and then I'm going to have one button that says, I don't see a name. And that's just a cross-reference because if we have all of our sticky notes gone, we believe we're there. But if I have a student that tells me I don't have anybody at Fagley that I can talk to, we need to reach out because then we're missing something because we believe we got you. So we are going to be doing those surveys in December just to touch base with our kids, just to follow up on that backside. Do we have the right picture in our head? Okay? In regards to our collaboration room, not only do we have the data for achievement academically, our SEL achievement in our building, we meet there every Tuesday and every Thursday for our during plan. I have all of my 6th grade teachers, all of my 7th, all of my 8th at their particular plan time. On Tuesdays, it's known as PD Tuesday in the Collaboration Center. So we use the high quality professional development, the HQPD that has been approved, to go month by month with the different themes, as well as focusing on a specific strategy. We present it, the teachers present, you know, we throw the different, hey, who's doing this strategy? And teachers will volunteer. If they can't, you know, Anne Marie, I really don't know if I feel comfortable, record it. Let's flip it. So we've done flip PD, so teachers can do that. And also, too, if they're presenting in other times, they're out of their classroom, they don't want to be out of their classrooms. So flipping that PD and allowing to show a video, it allows our teachers the time to still be in their classrooms, but yet still collaborating and enriching their peers and colleagues. So this month's theme is our rules and procedures. So we're establishing rules and procedures. We're looking at the organization of the physical layout of the classrooms. We're demonstrating with itness and talking about what does that mean. Acknowledging adherence to rules and procedures and then lack of adherence to rules and procedures. And what's really neat is through the HQPD, they give you a survey, a self-survey before every topic. They give you a survey that you self-analyze yourself. And it's not anything that they have to share. It's just to be reflective, making the educator be reflective. Because if we're not constantly reflecting and looking back, what could be different, how can we get better, then we're not going to grow and we're going to stay stagnant. So the teachers having those collaborative meetings and being able to talk about things, and then if it's a refresher strategy, it's a refresher. But if it's something like, I didn't know that one, I'm going to try it. And then the following meeting, we always talk back, okay, who tried it? You know, and we have those kind of conversations. On Thursdays, it is PLC Thursday. So administration, again, meets with their teachers by grade level. And this one, now we're looking at the data, and we're looking at assessments and making sure that we are collaborating with Willow Creek and make sure we have those common unit assessments through HRS. And we look at our data and we look to see where are our kids falling. What do we need to do? All these kids missed question 5. Why? Is it a bad question? Did we miss it? What's wrong? So we have those conversations as well. So the meeting allowing for a neutral zone, the data and things all the way around us, working towards a common goal. It's really given our team, I believe, just a very nice, collaborative, safe zone. And I believe we're doing good things. That is a far picture of our collaboration station. And if at the end you would like to see us go on a field trip, I'd be more than happy to take you up. Okay? Thank you very much. Any questions?
No, thank you. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have a question.
Thank you. Good job.
I would just like to mention really quickly, when the school board had previously visited Indian Prairie Schools, that's in the League of Innovative Schools, the one thing that we learned about them is there are some schools that have created the space bottom up, new construction. And then we went to which was one of their high schools. Then we went to the second high school in Indian Prairie, and we saw how you can do these innovative things within the constraints of a regular classroom if you take the concept and you roll with it. And so, as Principal Caballero said, being at the West renovation for a year as an assistant principal and seeing what those collaboration rooms are truly intended for, she was able to take a room that has no renovation to it, simply sent an email out to all principals and said, anybody have an extra conference table? My conference table's in there as well.
Thank you.
So that we can make sure our teachers can really look through their data, spread out, and get down to what our kids' needs are. And I agree that social emotional component, making sure that you have that data side by side with academic is huge. So thank you.
Thank you.
I had a question about the data wall.
Yes.
On the, with the names of the students, and I know you want to see the progress and the movement, do you have them identified by subgroups? The students, for example, if you have 3 students that are English language learners or special education
No,
students?
no.
You don't?
We
put, like-
have not done any type of identification like that with our students. I think that is good data. But I also would hold my teachers accountable for knowing those special things about our children. That's important for knowing. But again, this is new to us, so any advice that you may have, I would love to hear it in regards to making those walls even better.
And next to the names, do you have, for example, the quarter, the date, where they were as they're making progress?
So right now, we just have the first data. So when we put the second data up in the corner, they're going to record the old
Okay.
score. So then, yes, that's
Right.
already been, we've already got that one done. Because they're dry erase magnets.
Oh.
So we can continue to do whatever we need to do on them, and they're reusable. So I hopefully don't have to purchase them again. So
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Mr. Mileta, did you have anything?
No, other than I think that's great. I love it. It's great use of that space, and it's important for our kids. And I really love that connection with the kids, because as we all know, many times these kids have nobody except for those in the school. And to kind of bring that to the forefront and put a focus on that, it's extremely important. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. It really brought a lot of components together, and I think when you look at the academic components of it, the data walls, the collaboration, the growth, the PBL, the individualized learning, but then when you bring the cell, and like you said, that every student has to have a relationship with one adult. And if you don't have a relationship with one adult, it doesn't matter what kind of curriculum you have, what kind of data walls you have, what kind of PBL, that student will not achieve. So right now, that's the most important thing, and that's great to see that you're going back to check, not only that you think that they do have a connection, but they say that they have a safe place and a safe person where they can go to talk to that individual, and that is ESSA, and that's a huge component of ESSA, and that is something that I know that Portage Township Schools has been recognized with, is with our CEL, which is our social and emotional learning, which is part of ESSA, the national Every Student Succeeds Act, and Dr. Alanez has been nominated or asked to go down one of how many? 4
Yes.
superintendents in the state to be, go ahead, I'll let you toot
Yes,
your own horn.
we'll be speaking with the State Board of Education on our efforts, and we received a call just last Thursday or Friday. They have asked not only that we participate at their whole child conference as well and present, but they're going to even have a special TED Talk with the Tier 2 interventions and Tier 3 interventions for social emotional learning. They truly believe Portage Township Schools is leading the pack in how we've implemented that, and Mr. Wilson will be involved with the state on that TED Talk. So it's a great focus in the district. Our leadership is doing a wonderful job keeping that the priority, and we are truly changing students' lives, partnering with families, resources within the community, and helping each other to do whatever we can to meet our students' needs. So, yes, thank you.
And with that being said, we want to thank you, Fagley, because one of our strategic plans and our goals is to be state recognized, and you are helping Portage Township Schools being state recognized. And it's a great honor, like Dr. Alanez says, to be one of 4 school districts in the whole state of Indiana to go down and ask us, what are you doing with CEL? Because we don't see others that are moving and shaking like you. And we want you to potentially be a pilot for the other over 400 school districts in the state to come up here and see what you guys are doing. So thank you for putting us on the map and doing a great job. Thank you. Mr. Bachman, sir, it's great to see you. With that being said, we're going to move on to STEM coding presentation. Dr. Alanez?
Yes, we have Mr. DePasquale, who is going to work along with Mr. Dietrich, who's our elementary innovative learning coach, and some of our students from STEM camp, and they are going to assist in the presentation to share with you just what type of leadership skills they learned this summer and how they are utilizing them in the school building. I do believe these are our youngest students with Portage Township Schools badges.
Yeah, so we have a large contingency of students from all the way from elementary, middle school, and a couple of high school students. I'll be talking a little bit later, but we're going to be talking about STEM, and specifically, we're a STEAM district. We believe in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, but also the arts is a major component of what we do, because that's really important also. So the goal is to continue the computer science and 21st century skills in our students to support the strategic plan of our district, in addition to fulfilling the computer science requirements of the state, which coming 2021 will be actually required as part of instruction. It won't be a curriculum, but a part of the instruction of what you do. So next slide, if you don't mind. There you go. Oop. Oh, there you go. I got control. So our presentation today, we're going to introduce our STEM champs from our STEM Camp that we did this summer, which was really exciting. Elementary Coding with Tinker. It's a adopted curriculum that we brought in through a grant that we were given, the Digital Learning Grant. Middle School Coding with Playgrounds. That's an Apple-specific product. And then the last thing is our High School Computer Science and App Development, which is also part of our Project Lead the Way program. So Portage Township Schools Strategic Plan, goal number 2, will create a culture of technological innovation. Very proud to say that we are very technologically advanced in regards to the equipment and devices that we have with our schools. And the great thing is our students are starting to, or have been for a long time, been doing a lot of these things and been leaders in regards to technology. And looking at that future ready model, that's part of what we do, is making sure that we are looking towards those 21st century skills and the future ready framework. So the STEM Camp occurred for the first time this summer. We selected 10 students. They were nominated from their teachers and principals, and I've got 4 of them with me. And they came from all 8 elementaries, so it was up to 80 students. It was 2 weeks, 4 days a week, for several hours. Lunch was offered through the summer lunch program, which was great, so they could come and have lunch for free and then be a part of what we did. We had 3 teachers and then 2 instructional technology specialists. Mrs. Guth is with us. She was one of our instructional technology specialists. She's over at Central. And then it was funded through grant dollars, and then it was also very low operational cost because we already had a lot of the equipment. It was just the ideas, the concepts, developing the curriculum, and then just getting the really awesome students involved. So I'm going to introduce our first student because she has softball to get to, so I want to let her speak, and then Dad's going to take her all the way out to Cedar Lake. So go ahead, introduce yourself, and then talk about some of the things you did at STEM Camp.
Hi, my name is Danica Barbagetti, and my most favorite thing at STEM Camp was programming the drones. I had a lot of fun doing it, and that's really all I did. That was like really fun for me.
Yeah, when we asked her to pick one thing, she's like, all of it was my favorite. And I said, no, you pick your favorite. So, and she did a phenomenal job. And as they're not just technology students, they're involved in softball, academics, and everything else. So we'll let you get out of here. And Dad, thank you for sticking around. I know you got to go. So one of the challenges they did, and we're going to show this video, was the balloon car challenge, which was really exciting for the students. So the students had to make a car that was only powered by one single balloon. And what they got was a balloon, 3 straws, 2 shish kebab skewers, and then they were told to make their own car. The only thing they could not do is like take Lego wheels or anything. They had to come up creatively with different objects to make wheels, obviously as light as it can be. And so this is a really quick video of their competition. Every kid got to make one, and then they competed for which one went the furthest. And those are literally moving
There's a few
just by the
slow
power
but
of a
steadies.
single balloon.
Slow but steadies.
And the winner there used
Wow.
actual old CDs
We have a
to
winner.
use them as wheels to power those cars. I know it was a lot of fun, and a lot of them did really, really well. And a lot of them did not so well, but they learned from their failures, which obviously we want students to learn from engineering is from their failures. So I'm going to have the next student introduce themselves and talk about what they did at STEM Camp.
Hi, my name is Michaela Rideout, and my favorite thing that I did in STEM camp was probably building and launching the catapults, and that was like my favorite.
Yeah, they actually had a competition of launching marshmallows with a catapult that they had to make from whatever they could come up with items, so that was a lot of fun. They also had an egg drop, which they really enjoyed. Myself and Jason Martin, who's in our maintenance department, actually used the bucket truck from the maintenance department and went up about 40 feet and did the egg drop challenge where they had to make something that made an egg survive. And it was so neat to get our maintenance department to be involved with that. And even though the buckets were filled with water, because
I was just going to say, are you going to admit that the buckets full of water, they got in there with
I had to sacrifice
just
a
for
pair
the
of gym
kids?
shoes.
Yeah.
They got thrown away. So yeah, they were pretty bad afterwards. We're going to get into tinker coding here in just a second, but I'm going to have the other students introduce themselves.
Hi, my name is Cora Kingwright, and I loved everything about STEM, but my favorite probably had to be coding the Spheros, and it was a lot of fun. I would really hope to do it again.
You want to talk about what you had to do with the Spheros real quick?
We had to make it go through a course, and we had to make it say something, change colors, and go through this maze where it had to swerve around these tape lines, and if you touched the tape lines, then it would be a couple points off, so you had to get as many points as possible.
And that was autonomous programming. So it wasn't that they were controlling it remotely. They actually had to pre-program the robot and then let it run its course. So they were not able to change it after they started it. So that was pretty interesting. And then the last one I want to introduce is Levi, and he's going to introduce himself. Levi was our AutoCAD expert. So our students were given the ability to use what's called Tinkercad, which is a beginner version of CAD drawing. So it's the same thing engineers do to draw products and stuff and actually 3D print them. And Levi's became our expert and actually taught some of his fellow classmates about CAD drawing back at the school. So Levi?
Hi, my name is Levi, and my favorite thing about STEM camp was Tinkercad and being able to 3D print my favorite toy/pencil holder, Lego Man.
So that actually was designed by Levi, and then also there was 3D printed off of the 3D printer, and he actually designed that himself. So it's really neat. So thank you, Levi. I'm going to introduce Mr. Dietrich, and Mr. Dietrich is our innovative learning coach at the elementary schools, and he is going to talk about Tinkercad, which is the new coding curriculum in science, computer science curriculum.
Good evening. Yeah, so one of the things that is a state requirement is that schools must offer dedicated computer science curriculum to students. So in doing that now, there's a couple of years to do that, but Portage, wanting to make sure and get out ahead of it, has been instituting that already. And one of the ways that we've been choosing to do that is through the program of Tinker. There's a lot of things about it that are terrific, that are very engaging to students, which is, you know, for a teacher, a very helpful thing when it's a student-engaged type of activity and they're coming to you asking when you get to do it again. But in the meantime, sometimes they may not even realize how much learning they're really doing. Looking off of Monster.com, looking at last year's statistics, 7 million job openings were in fields that valued coding skills highly. And those were not necessarily just limited to computer programmers or website developers. I mean, of course, those need to have coding abilities. But we're talking about engineering. We're talking about data analysis, which could get into the financial sector. We're talking about all kinds of science, scientists of all kinds. So there's a lot to it. The nice thing about coding is it offers the students the ability to develop those skills to be able to do anything that they want. And that's one of the big things about it, is being able to develop those future-ready, those 21st century skills. So in terms of what we're going to be watching here in a second, I didn't have the foresight to hold my phone sideways, so we're going to be watching a very narrow video here However, this was over at South Haven Elementary. One of the things that I've done is they've coded their drones, and their goal was to land it in the half-court circle.
There we go. Girls are on the edge of that circle. They are the closest so far. Nice job.
Here's another group.
Okay, ready? Go. There's another trial here. A little far, a little far.
Just a little.
Ooh, they got on the outside of it again. They're knocking on the door.
Go ahead, send them. Eli, watch out!
I just like how they're running with the drone. So it's a little physical education in there too. Okay. So anyway, that's one of the capabilities of Tinker. Not only can they use it for, there are games, there are puzzles that they solve through coding. There's tutorials, so it walks them along. It really is accessible to all skill levels because it has beginner level projects, middle level, advanced level, and it will say that on their activities so the student knows what they're getting into. Teachers have the ability to go in and assign specific activities to their students, which is helpful because what they also have are they also have STEM projects that are within that, coding STEM projects. They also are able to search, the teacher is able to search by grade level. They are able to search by subject area, so if they wanted to do a social studies, coding type of project with their students, they could assign that. So there's a lot of autonomy, but there's also that control at the teacher level, so there's really a lot that can be done with it. And as I said, you know, it's flexible, it's adaptable, but it's also engaging to students who have really been very positive in their reviews of it so far. So we're excited about what it offers and just continuing to move forward. The students that came in already being skilled in Tinker, some of them, you know, revealed, oh, I have this at home. I already have an account here. More than just a few have told me that. But even for them, there are next steps, so they don't get bored. There's always something for them to learn additional to that.
I want to introduce Rebecca Bostel. She's from Fagley, and she's going to talk about use of playgrounds, which is through Apple. We have a wonderful Project Lead the Way program that starts very strongly in 7th grade. In 6th grade, there was a little bit of a gap there, so we're very blessed to have Apple products, which has a built-in curriculum through playgrounds, and she's going to talk about that.
Hi, I'm Mrs. Bostel. I am the digital citizenship teacher here, and for 5 years I've been teaching computers. And this past summer I was asked to learn and teach myself coding and work through this. So I am with the students learning something new as I go along. This app allows our students to learn programming in a much easier and more flexible way. They're given easier challenges, harder challenges, they build up. They're told, hey, you did this good, but let's go back and see what else we can do. They're going to gain basic programming skills that will help them in fun interactive puzzles. As Mr. DePasquale had said, it is going to build them up for their 7th and 8th grade Project Lead the Way classes. I even went into Mr. Weaver's Project Lead the Way classes and spoke with him, watched what he's doing. He had the Spheros out on the floor with the kids. Mr. DePasquale came in a couple weeks ago and sat down and helped me with the Spheros, and we were showing one of my classes what we were going to be doing with those. Our goal for this is we have access to Playgrounds 1 and Playgrounds 2. Our goal as 6th grade, in one semester, I will get to meet about 60 kids, get them through Playgrounds 1 and 2, or as much of it as I can. And now I'm going to introduce you to Bite. As you can see, we have these 3 little creatures in the top corner there. Bite is a little creature that runs all of our puzzles with us. He has goals with every aspect he does. If you look in the lower left-hand side. That is our easiest puzzle. That was the very first one they ever had to do. They had to get Bike to move forward and collect a gem. That was it. So the kids got to sit down, work in partners, work together on this. We came together as a class and went over it. And then weeks later, we have a much more detailed lesson. If we could have zoomed in a little bit more, you would have seen he had 16 different gems on that screen to try and get to. But we also used words like booleans and for loops and terminology that goes along with the coding that these students are picking up. And when they move on, when they're like, hey, you're going to put in a while loop, they're going to be like, well, what's a while loop? I'll show you. They'll be able to help along with those other people in the coding aspect. Now, today, I had two special students that decided to join me. They wanted to share their views on playgrounds in the classroom. We have Emma.
Hi, I am Emma, a sixth grader at Fegley. In class, I have learned that coding can be a bit confusing, but when it get a little help, it gets easier. I've also learned about boolean, for loop, and function, but that's not all. My absolute favorite thing about coding is that feeling when you finally finish a code that was hard for you. Another thing I like is that it makes you think more. There's a lot of trial and error, but that makes it more fun.
And then we have Andrew.
Hi, my name is Andrew, and I'm a sixth grader at Fegley Middle School. In class, we use Swift Playgrounds, and it is fun because we can learn to code. Learning code in Swift Playgrounds will help me in future classes that require coding and technology. I enjoyed the challenges of the different levels.
This has been a phenomenal thing as a teacher, watching the kids that don't get it, and then having someone help them, and they're like, oh my gosh, that wasn't as hard as I thought it was. They have the smile on their face, as Emma had said, just not getting it and then getting it. And then when they say, oh, but it says that I have to add this, and then they get to go back and try it again, and they're like, I figured out a second way I can do this. And it's a process of critical thinking that they will be able to carry on as they move up.
And then, of course, the high school, they want to come on up with the high school program, right tied in with Project Lead the Way and CTE. They've been doing this for quite some time, but it's now all tying together K through 12. And so we're going to have them introduce themselves and talk about it a little bit.
Good evening. My name is John Roscosi. I am the computer science teacher at the high school. I do both the intro classes and the AP classes. I have with me Andrew Panazzo, who is a junior, and Marina Keith, who is a senior. Both are AP students. The one thing that I like to stress about the AP Computer Science Principles is it's an AP class that's designed for people who do not have a coding background. So the projects that they worked on, their goal was to solve a real-world problem. They each went out and identified a real-world problem that they'd come across and worked to design an Android app that would address that. So first, I believe is... I am blind. I'm sorry.
You don't feel so bad, Mr. Stills, do you?
He's young.
So this one is Andrew's. So I'll let him explain it.
So the purpose of mine is it's a weightlifting app, and it's aided to progress weight and progression. And it has like a personal connection with me because a year ago in October, I wanted to change myself. And I went to Mr. H actually to help me, and he lended me a chart that his football team used to use. And it's a safe but effective weight limit. So how it's involved is you input your maximum weight that you can do with 1 rep. And my program outputs a set of 3 different weight limits. And then it tracks your progression and aids you to increase every week or every day that you go. And it's able to configure your maximum weight if you don't know, because finding your maximum weight is difficult, and if you go to the gym by yourself like me, it's dangerous because you're doing a lot of heavy weight that you've never done before. So my code has a calculation progress, so you input a weight that you can do 4 or 5 times by yourself, so you can do it alone at the gym, and it calculates your 1 rep max, and then it's tracked and transferred to another screen, and that'll push you up 5 pounds. So you keep increasing every day you go in, and it's simple used in a guided program, and I have it here if anyone would like to see afterwards, but it's just a personal connection that I created to change a purpose that I wanted to do. That's all.
Awesome.
Okay. Hi. I developed a school tracker. I'm originally from Gary Community School Systems, so coming to Portage High School was a big difference because I went from a school with 200 to 300 kids to like over 2,000. So it was a really huge school. So when Mr. H came to me about this idea, I was like, okay, freshman students, even my cousin was a member here. She went to Willow Creek, and she said, I'm so scared about going to high school. So I said, let me create a school tracker that could actually show students, especially freshman students, where they'll be located on a map. So I used my previous counselor, Mr. Wrestler, and as you can see on the Android emulator, the black circle on the map is actually representing you, and the map, I was able to get those from my counselor, and I started off with the 3rd floor because it's the smallest and easiest. And what you do is as you move around in the school, your location actually syncs to your phone, and it shows you where you're heading to depending on what hallways and classrooms. I use this by actually having to go up to the 3rd floor and get the longitude and latitude of each corner from the top and left, right corners and the bottom and the bottom and left, right corners. I am not able to show this to you today only because of the coordinates that I have are for the high school. And also the Android that I use, the Android tablet that I use, the model doesn't give you the precise location as Google Maps would or any other location GPS.
So this is just an example, a few examples of a lot of the things that are going on in the school district, K through 12. If you looked at all of our robotics programs and everything else, but a lot of the STEM, I know, it's incredible when you think there's students that literally are making apps where you can find where you're at on a map. And these are things, we had some of our students help us with building some brackets we needed for the IT department, and they CAD drew them and helped us print it, and then they became products that we actually used. I mean, and these are 4th and 5th grade students doing those type of things, and high school students doing these type of things. And it's just through the talents of having this available technology and the willing educators and facilitators that are willing to host those opportunities. So it's been very exciting. And it brings us, continues to push forward that future-ready concept that we're pushing forward in the district. So the elementary students wanted to have you give you a gift. So we got you a T-shirt from our STEM camp that we want to share with you guys, just to show you, thank you for your support and all that you guys let us do to support STEM education and STEAM throughout the district, because obviously it's making a big impact on our students, and what learning looks like, that's obviously much different than what learning looked like for us. So thank you.
Thank you.
If I selected the wrong shirt size, please. Thank you. It was by random, so random draw. Just kidding.
Thank you.
Well, thank you for the presentation, and thank you for showing the presentation at the elementary level, because we do have computer science curriculum in K through 12. So it's nice to see what they're doing at the elementary level and all the great concepts and the great experiences and the summer camps that are available, and then going into the middle schools, and then the pathway to Project Lead the Way, and ending up with some great apps that we just seen from our high school students. And STEM or STEAM is definitely needed, as Mr. DePasquale said, that we just don't have enough of those students who are, graduating from college in the United States. So it's great to see that we have the pathway from kindergarten all the way up to 12, that you do have the opportunity to do great things and to make changes in the world, not just here in Portage Township Schools, which you could see from the apps from the students, but you have the potential now, to change the world. So thank you for that, and that was a great presentation, and Project Lead the Way, I know that you've done a great job throughout the years, and we appreciate everything you do. Thank you.
And what a great job our students did in presenting, right?
Yes, they did.
Yeah.
I have a question. Mr. D, is the is playground available at Willow Creek Middle School as well?
It is available over at Willow Creek also, and we're helping supporting that push also.
Okay.
They have a little bit different approach in regards to what they're doing in that curriculum, so we're continuing to support that, but it is available.
Okay, thank you.
And it's actually, any student that has an iPad has the ability to do playgrounds, which is great, and that also includes Painter, because it's some of it's open software, some of it's purchased software. Teacher at the K-5 level, when you get into more in-depth stuff, is a purchased curriculum, so it's really exciting.
And then one more question. I do see value in both of the apps that were presented, especially the one that the young lady just presented, because students, I see parents doing this, students do get lost at the high school first year. So I didn't know, and teachers do too, especially, when you're new. And I did not know if there was an opportunity for us to continue to build on some success here from a education and Portage Township Schools perspective for you and the rest of the Project Lead the Way staff. Absolutely. Okay, thank you so much.
With that being said, if anybody would like to leave, and if you have anything to do for the evening, you may feel welcome to go ahead and enjoy the rest of your evening. We're going to start with the business portion of the meeting, but if you'd like, you're more than willing to stay. Thank you.
He's like, no. He wants to stay. Good job.
Okay, next we'll move on to agenda adjustments. Does anybody on the school board or the superintendent have anything under agenda adjustments? No? We'll move on to new business. First, we'll have to have our first reading of the new policy manual, which supports strategic plan goal 1, 2, 3, and 4. Dr. Alanes?
Yes. As the board is aware, we are undergoing the process of taking our manual and more effectively organizing it and allowing those opportunities for, first of all, continuing on with the bylaw section, adding the general commitment section, which applies to everyone, no matter student, staff, or otherwise, visitors to our properties and various things. And then combining those sections that are personnel. So that will now be, and this will be included in the first reading, all of our current personnel policies are going to merge into one section entitled Administration and Personnel. Because as you're aware, we will oftentimes have the same policy with very similar wording or identical wording for the different employee groups. So for instance, bereavement or FMLA is listed for administration and then certified teachers and then our support staff. And we're wanting to better streamline that and make our manual more manageable, as well as reconfigure it just so that it has all of the meat, but you can go to one place to find it. And Mr. Elwood, did you have some clarity
No, this
to
will
add?
simply serve as the first reading tonight. I understand that these policies generally come from the NSBA, or at least how it's organized. And then I believe Wayne Township has adopted this. It certainly seems to be best practices that have
Yes.
come from the policy committee.
One other item, Fulton County, I do know that the board had visited a presentation that they completed at NSBA, and they utilize the same system. Their organizational system is just much more simplistic as far as the average person who needs to get into policy and those of us who are in there on a daily basis. Just being able to have a clear-cut organizational system will be a great benefit.
Yes, and with that being said, I'm the one who actually went to since I've been on the policy committee for many years, and it seemed like we were having a never-ending battle of trying to get our policies updated or current and correlated, and you'd have 3 policies that said the exact same thing, but they were for staff, certified, non-certified administration. And so after going to the Fulton County School Board Association conference, it made it a lot easier because they actually utilize the NSBA, which is the National School Board Association numbering or lettering system, so that it's a format where the board has management oversight. And what that means is that it's a 4-year cycle. It's a cycle so that every board member, board members serve 4 years, so every board member will see every policy within their term. So you will have monthly board policies coming up now, not just because they were pulled out because the law changed or it's a new policy or it's an updated policy from a federal level or a state level, but there's so many policies that we have that are not law governed that board members don't get to see and staff doesn't get to see. So with this board management oversight, they also say that you also do this with your employees. So the board brings them up in a board meeting and, you know, either discusses them or just reviews them or just, you know, whatever you want to do, but then also that's that cascading effect. Then the superintendent takes that down to every employee so that they're aware of it also. And then also the Fulton County said that you need to have what's considered a PPP, which is an acronym for a policy point person. So there's one PPP, policy point person, within the district who answers to every policy. So it's not certain administrators that will answer to a certain group or the superintendent, it will be the PPP, then that will be the policy point person, and I'm sure that that will be something that will be recognized or once we get all this into place. So it's a good format, and then finally we just said, let's just find somebody in the state of Indiana who has adopted this format that's going to be easy to read, easier for the staff to figure out, easier for the board to understand, and easier for the superintendent and also the community. And Dr. Alanes found Wayne Township who utilizes this, so that's the policy, kind of the format that we're looking at, but although they will be our policies. So thank you for doing that. Sure. There's nothing else then, correct?
No, I don't believe so.
Okay. So next we'll move on to the approval of the board compact. I'll make a motion to approve the board compact. Second. Discussion?
I think this is great. I'm really happy. I know we've talked about this for a long time on doing this. It's a board compact, code of ethics. It's a way for the board to interact and to work with each other. Lays out some really good guidelines, and I'll be happy to sign this and be proud too, as I know the board worked on this and came up with this pact. And I think it's important. It's a document that will live beyond us as our terms on this board come and go. It'll be something that'll help guide new members that are coming in, as well as members throughout the year. So I think it's a very well done document. I'm excited that we're finally getting it done, because I know we've talked about it for a long time.
We have talked about it as a board, and it was something that myself and another board member had worked on. And then once we had seen that the board was going to change in January of this year, we decided to put that on hold until we had a new board. So this board has had 2 meetings with outside facilitators to learn about it. One is with the Indiana School Board Association, and then another was with an attorney who does this with school districts across the state of Indiana. And as Mr. Milletta said, the board compact is just a contract that we have with each other and with the superintendent that specifically states our roles, how we conduct business on the outside, when we're board members, when we're not board members, and also the superintendent and board relationship, which is so important because there's actually research out there that states that if a board acts in a certain way, that they're able to have a positive impact on student achievement. And it's data driven, and it's research based, and it's done at a university level, and many of the states now have adopted this concept that you identify who your stakeholders are, because we do have internal stakeholders and we also have external stakeholders. And the superintendent, obviously, her stakeholders are the internal stakeholders. So anything, we hire one CEO, the superintendent, to run the district. She's not elected like a mayor. She's not elected, you know, as a county council or anything like that. So we are elected board, we're the governing board. We hire one superintendent to run this school district, and her internal stakeholders are hers. If we tell her what to do with the internal stakeholders, we are micromanaging her. It's not our job to micromanage her because we don't know how to be a superintendent, no matter what our background is. And we all have diverse backgrounds. And even experience on the board doesn't give you the right to micromanage. So her employees, all of her staff, and the students, and the parents, when they have when their child is a student, are her stakeholders and her stakeholders only. And that's why if anybody comes to us as a board member with an issue, or if they have a complaint, or if they just have anything that they want to say, we always say you have to follow your chain of command, which is internal, before it even would come to the board, and then ultimately the decision making would be the superintendent. The board stakeholders is the community, and with that being said, that the only crossover there actually is with the parents. When you're a parent, it's the superintendent's job to take care of that. But when you're just a community member and you have kids in the district, then you are our stakeholder. So any of the organizations, such as the Lions Club, the YMCA, the Chamber, those are school board members' stakeholders. That's us to fulfill those roles and those duties. And if the superintendent then gets engaged in the outside into the community, then she doesn't have the time, and she's stepping on our role and our stakeholders. She doesn't have the time then to devote to what she needs to within the 1,500 employees and students that she has here. So that's something that is delineated out, that is spelled out, that we have actually done a book study, the majority of the board up here, and we've also went to conferences on it. So it's something that's very important to this board. As Mr. Milletta said, it is setting a precedent. It's setting a precedent for future school board members. It's setting a precedent for future superintendents. So I'm glad we're finally got this done, and hopefully we'll get it approved tonight. And once again, it's a map, a roadmap of how this board functions and how we function with the superintendent.
And it is a public document that'll be on our website.
It is a public document, yes. It will be. Yep. Does anybody else have? Go ahead.
Some of the statements that are included in this document are mutual trust and commitment. The full board is accountable for everything that we have to do in terms of children. And the first one that came to my mind when I read it and reviewed it was children first. Respecting each other's opinions, knowing that the majority rules when we have meetings and we have to vote, and that mutual respect for each other's roles. So some of those are the messages that surface for me, and I will be very happy to sign that and approve it this evening.
Thank you. Dr. Alanez, do you have anything?
I just think that this is, again, a testament to the hard work, the board and superintendent relationship, and what we've established and will continue to establish, as you've stated, moving on when there are different individuals sitting at this table. And, you know, when there's a new superintendent, when there's a new board, moving forward for years and years to come, this will impact the students and the community. And they will be able to do the business of the district in the best interest of the students and for the students because of this. So I'm very grateful for the opportunity to have learned about this alongside the board, and I appreciate the opportunity to, again, continue working in that established role and having that compact there to guide us.
Thank you. Call the roll, please.
Trustee Clancy?
Yes.
Trustee Finley?
Yes.
Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez, yes. And Trustee Oprisco?
Yes. Thank you, board. Next, there's no owed business, so we'll move on to superintendent consent. We'll need a motion for the personnel report of November 18th.
I make a motion to approve the superintendent consent agenda.
I'll second.
Discussion? Hearing none, call the roll.
Trustee Clancy?
Yes.
Trustee Finley?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez, yes. Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
And Trustee Oprisco?
Yes. With that being said, Mr. Elwood, I didn't specifically say each one. Did I need to do that, or do we need to amend it? Or?
You did not, but I think
Okay.
Mr. Mileta's
That's
motion
fine.
was clear. It was the whole
The
consent agenda.
superintendent's
So it's
consent.
4 items, 601, 602, 603, 604.
Okay, thank you. Next, we'll move on to the board consent agenda. I'll make a motion to approve the meetings of the regular board meeting of October 29, 2019, the meetings of the executive session of November 6, 2019, the meetings of the discussion meeting November 11, 2019, and the meetings of the public work session of November 11, 2019. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Discussion? Call the roll, Madam Secretary.
Trustee Clancy?
Yes.
Trustee Finley?
Yes.
Trustee Vasquez, yes. Trustee Maleta?
Yes.
Trustee Oprisco?
Yes. Next, we'll move on to the legislative. Myself, the policy board plan. The board plan was part of the board compact. The policy we just approved tonight. With legislative, I'd like to say that tomorrow is the day when many of our teachers, and if I'm not mistaken, some administrators and yourself are going to be going down to the State House. I was reading some articles today. It said about 50% of our schools are closed. It is a big statement for education. And also, we are 50th ranked in the state of Indiana for teacher salary. So hopefully they'll get the message across. The legislature and the governor, even though he won't be there, he's in Florida, will hear the message loud and clear. So best of luck and best wishes for everybody who is definitely traveling down there. A lot of eyes are on you, so including ours. So, and thank you, Dr. Alanis, for supporting our teachers also. Mr. Maleta, do you have anything?
Nothing to report.
Trustee Vasquez?
Oh, yes, the Portage Township Education Foundation met on the 12th of this month. If any of you use Amazon Smile, it is a site for shopping, so part of that will be given to or donated to the Education Foundation. Also a reminder that the 500 Club is still out there, and the cost, it's $25 a ticket as opposed to $50 in the past. Also, there is the Major Savior campaign will begin tomorrow, and it ends on December the 5th, and that is for elementary school students. So please make sure that we can support that to add more funding for our foundation. And the Education Foundation is interested in providing schools with bleed kits that is being looked into. And so this is another way that the Education Foundation is making an impact for our students. We're not sure yet about how many and where it's going to be housed or trained. So I know Ms. Pat Olson is working with the foundation in that area. That's it.
Thank you. Trustee Clancy?
I do have the paperwork for the RDC for our grant from Dr. Elena, so I'll provide that to them for their November meeting.
Thank you. Trustee Finley?
No update. We already talked about the policy.
Okay. Dr. Alanis, do you have anything?
I do have a few comments this evening. I think that this meeting was a true testament to the amount of work that this board does and the ability to do the work we do for our students. When you consider all of the things presented this evening regarding social emotional learning, data, high quality professional development, and the various different things with our students, the strengths and the talents that they bring to the table, their areas of expertise that they're learning alongside their teachers. And I think that's really interesting when Mrs. Bastel said that she is learning alongside her students, because we do want our teachers, and this board has prioritized the need for lifelong learners in those who impact our kids. One thing I want to mention in particular also this evening is it's very fitting being at Fagley Middle School this evening as a very beloved educator. Mr. Terry Lavenda passed away today, who was a truly loved man in Portage Township schools throughout the Portage community as an educator, principal, assistant superintendent, and he was a mentor to many of the individuals in this room, myself included. He was the very first phone call I made the evening that I was board approved to be the superintendent of this school district. And he really knew what social emotional learning was before it ever existed. He knew every kid needed it, every child he had a connection with. And as we have this Friday the opportunity to have the candlelight in that was started by Mr. Lavenda, and he would come dressed in a tuxedo and encourage students to dress up. He really wanted that Fagley family, and he started those traditions, what the true middle school concept meant for a child and what it meant to be a team and a family. So Principal Caballero, you're doing a great job. He would truly be proud of the work and effort of you, Mrs. Combs and Mr. Bashan and your entire team. There's a lot of people in this room, again, who love him and adore him and truly are keeping his family in our thoughts and prayers. I'd also like to just mention Mr. Gran. He has completed the Indiana Association of School Business Officials leadership training. This is very extensive training, multiple years in the works. So I want to congratulate him. He has truly grown into his leadership role and fortunately is not afraid to tell me no. So, you need those people around you who are willing to say, based on the needs of our students, what are the right decisions and what are those decisions that can wait. So I did want to just mention his accomplishments. Again, going with high quality professional development, our teachers just had another benchmark literacy training. They are really digging into the content of the materials, examining common instructional strategies that are going to work for our kids, and really looking at the data closely to see what's working. I had also sent in the update last week that we are utilizing our NWEA alongside in partnership. Mrs. Williams has this underway for us, where we are going to do the linking study, or I should say NWEA is going to complete the linking study with the iLearn results. So that will help us as we look at the trajectory into the future of what student achievement looks like on that state assessment and how it correlates to that nationally normed test, which will, as you know, help us tremendously to continue to meet the needs of our kids. Again, examples of the League of Innovative Schools. I think we're ready for another application based on what you saw this evening. There's no school district, Mrs. Oprisco reminds me of this regularly, that has ever gotten into that under one application. So we are going to submit again when this comes up in April, and I truly believe our students now carry the torch for us, and our teachers and our support staff who oversee some of these opportunities for kids have really been vulnerable in their ability to take that learning and help our kids learn that failure is truly always part of the learning process. I could go on and on because, like I said, it was just a great meeting, a great opportunity to celebrate our students. And again, as tomorrow is Red for Ed Day in Portage and across the state of Indiana, we will be stepping downstate at the State House and helping to advocate on behalf of our students in Portage as well as the surrounding school districts and across the state.
Thank you. And with that being said, I want to go back just to the board compact because, as Mr. Merletta said, it is a public document and it's a very important document. It's kind of in a format that needs to be, after we approved it today, brought up into the correct language. I mean, the correct language is there, it's just in the red line version. So we need to fix that. With that being said, I would like to request that the board have that for our next meeting. We need to live it, we need to own it, and with that being said, the public and the internal and external stakeholders need to know what that board compact is and what I'd like to have then all 5 of us read portions of it. Whatever portion you would like to read, it doesn't matter, just let me know. And I think for the next meeting, it's very important that we read that. Is everybody in agreement? Yeah. And then I think we can have like the signing little ceremony, maybe have a, our last meeting for the year, some cookies or punch or something after we sign that for us, if you don't mind.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Does anybody else on the board have anything under other?
We do have one public comment form.
Yes, and there is an individual or individuals anybody in the audience who has anything. If you'd come up to the microphone, please, and give your name and address.
Hi, my name's Tracy Salt. I'm at 6284 Venus Avenue in Portage, Indiana, and I'm happy to be here. It's a great meeting tonight. You're absolutely right, Dr. Alanos. Loved it. Sorry to hear about Terry Lavenda. I went to Fagley during his years with also Mr. Berta. They were very inspiring and helped me be the person I am today. So that really saddens me. But I want to tell you a little bit about me first, because I think it's important that you know who's speaking to you. I'm a passionate person for what I believe in. I've always been against, I've had a difficult time when I see somebody being mistreated, or we use the word bully today a lot. I've seen it through people that are close to me that were bullied in grade school, who are now adults, who have struggled and still struggle today, way up in their 50s. And I do believe that was from the bullying they experienced back when they were in grade school. And also, in saying that tonight, another thing I'd like to mention while I'm on that is my husband, who is here tonight, Brad. He was in heart failure at the age of 25 due to a virus. 10 years later, he received the miracle of a heart transplant. The donor, we kind of talked to through letters. The donor was 34 years old, had 4 little children. 2017 came by, and our family was hit pretty hard. Brad was actually dying of vasculopathy, which is a form of coronary heart disease that transplant patients get. He spent 3 months in the hospital at University of Chicago. That was October, November, and through part of January. And during those 3 months, the doctors told us, you know what, just wait. We're going to get him a good heart. We're waiting for a good heart, because you can imagine 3 months is a long time. We have 2 young boys at home who also go to Portage. It's a long time. And Christmas Day, Brad received his heart. We got word Christmas Eve. The surgeon worked through early morning, and we're lucky to have him today. In saying that, we heard from our donor this past summer. It was really a little bit tough. This donor, the mother wrote us. And this is the first time I'm really speaking about it. Not everybody has heard. 17-year-old boy who was a victim of bullying, and he committed suicide. So my husband today, who is sitting here, is alive today with a 17-year-old's heart. And to continue on, because I don't want to get too upset, because it's such a miracle, but with that family, it's just been really hard to think about. A child, you know, gave up life. And that's always been tough. It's tough for our family to think about. But the biggest, when I think about it, I think about our assets here at our schools, and I value them. And I think about our community and the assets that we have that I value. And I believe a lot of people in our community value them. And the reason I really value them is I worry about bullying and children, like the 17-year-old that committed suicide, and what could have been done different. And when I think about our athletics and that wheel, I look at our athletics as part of the wheel of Portage and of our schools. We have cheerleading, we have football, we have wrestling, we have all kinds of not even thinking about just sports. We have our thespians, we have this great, what we heard tonight. And to me, that all looks like the spokes on a wheel, and it's just spinning. And that wheel is so strong when we have all those spokes going. But when one breaks, and I think about our swim program, I think about our pools, and I see that one spoke is fractured. Two spokes are fractured. We've lost 2 pools. Now we have not one pool in Portage, Indiana. What does that mean to our schools, to our community? And I'm going to tell you, when the spokes on a wheel become fractured, that wheel is weakened. It's not as strong as it used to be. And if we don't fix that spoke, what happens? It starts to crumble, that wheel goes down, and we have a bigger wheel. We have a community wheel. What's in the community wheel? What's the spoke of that? It's our schools, our police departments, our fire departments, our retail. I could go on. But with our pools, when I'm talking about the community and the bigger wheel, our community used those wheels. My daughter, our 2 boys, learned how to swim at Portage High School through the Y. When we went, we would see, you know, some older ladies, the aquatics, 20 of them out there exercising. We'd see kids open swim. They're not out thinking of doing something they shouldn't be doing. They're there swimming. This was a community. It was for our community, our schools.
I'm gonna stop you right there, and I apologize.
Okay, that's okay.
I did not read the policy, and I should have, but I just looked at when you put it on there, it was just the pools. Okay. But we do allow a 3-minute, and we've let you speak for 6.
Okay.
And I do get exactly what you're saying, that the pools are important. And with that being said, we've gotten that information. And we are going to be having a Buildings and Grounds Committee with the board. The board is very astute at the fact that the pool is a wheel spoke, and it's important to the community, and many community members use the pool on a continuous basis. We understand that, but at the same time, we have to have safety first. And there are some issues with both pools, and fortunately, some have left it to where it's no longer functional. And we have to put students and kids in the community first to make sure that we do have facilities that are safe for them to use. And we are looking at getting them open. We're doing everything we can to make sure that our swim teams are competitive and they have a place to practice. And also, if Dr. Elenes would like to say anything about that, but we appreciate your comments.
Well,
Thank you so
what
much.
are we doing?
Pardon me?
What are we doing
I
to
think
make
Dr.
this
Elenes.
happen?
Dr. Elenes, if you allow her to speak.
So at this point in time, when this came about, we are looking through our long-term strategic plan and facility assessment review about what we need to do to get our pool up to what it should be for a natatorium. Both of our pools have been long time needing plumbing and mechanical. As you could imagine, the cost of upkeep for 2 pools is significant, and we want to at least make sure we have 1 pool in good functioning order for our kids. Through this process of getting involved engineers so that we can get our pool to become a pool that has all of those updated mechanicals, plumbing, and technology, that's when this assessment determined that we needed to close the pool in the meantime. We are working in conjunction with the administration at at Hobart High School. We are providing the bus service for students so that they can be transported there. We're also working on other additional options that have not been completely solidified at this point in time to see what we can do with other organizations in the community. Ironically, 2 other high school pools in the DAC also went down.
What is DNC?
The Duneland Athletic Conference. And so they were also looking for some lanes as well in other schools. I do believe the one is back up and running, but to answer your question, the reality of it is, because we are putting this as an investment by having the engineers come in and help us to facilitate how we upgrade our facility and make sure that it is absolutely up to par. When safety came to be an issue, we had no choice but to shut it down. But along those lines, shutting it down also is the reality that that's going to be quite some time before a facility is up and running, because it has taken several months to get this assessment completed. We are not even in the phases yet of design and specifications, the bidding process. All of these things come into play, and so because of that, we're looking at a longer term. And I know that there's an upcoming parent meeting with our swim families and the athletic department and Dr. Stevens to make sure that we are providing that insight and information, but it is not going to be a short-term fix. And again, that's the importance of safety.
And Dr. Alanis, I know that when you did send us that assessment from the architect and the engineers, that we would have to close the east pool, and we knew the reasons why we had to close the west pool, which was years ago because of structural danger and safety. This board, I know, asked you to look at, again, both of those, and which one is the viable option of what we could get open sooner than later. And I know that that's something that we asked you to do too, and neither one of them was safe enough to open. So that's the primary concern, is safety. We would never close anything down just for cosmetic remodeling during a school year, when we know that we have time to do that during the holiday, Christmas break, we have time to do that in the summer. To close a pool or pools during school hours is something that obviously is safety of our students.
And I understand the safety of our students. I wish we would have never got to this point. And I'm sure there's a lot of other people who feel the same way. I think it's important for our community, for the city of Portage, and I'm sure, and I know there's a lot of other people in the community who agree with me, who aren't here today, but they do agree with me. It's important for a city and a school to have a pool. It's attractive to other people moving in. It keeps people staying in your city. There's eyes. I wish some of the people who are watching and wondering what happened to our pools, who failed, who let us down, that they were here tonight to hear some of the great things that are going on in our schools. They're not hearing this, and they're not seeing it with the passion that I saw tonight. But they are seeing we don't have a pool. They are seeing that, and it is important. And I'm here tonight to speak for them, to speak for me. I love Portage. I was born and raised here. I love it. I graduated from here. My kids,
We all love Portage, and we thank you so much for your comments, and we'll
so
definitely make sure that all of our internal next door stakeholders
Because
are
we believe
aware of
in
the
it.
fact of what we're going to be doing with our pool.
I
Thank
think
you very
I put
much.
that because we
Meeting
believe in
adjourned.
it. My husband and I are donating $100